The deception. The diplomatic vessel Horizon shuddered as it emerged from the jump point, a ripple of blue-white energy washing over its hull before dissipating into the vacuum. Commander Ilara Chen steadied herself against her command chair, her dark eyes fixed on the vast starscape that materialized on the view screen before her. "Jump successful," Lieutenant Reeves announced from the navigation station. "We've arrived at the Proxima Neutral Zone." Ilara nodded, her expression betraying none of the anxiety churning in her stomach. "Status of the diplomatic delegation. Ambassador Lowell and his team are ready in the conference room." Communications Officer Park replied. "The Vexari and Krell representatives have acknowledged our arrival. They're less than enthusiastic about our presence. They'll get over it," Ilara said with more confidence than she felt. Humanity was the newest player in the Galactic theater, their first extraterrestrial contact barely 15 years behind them. To the ancient species that dominated interstellar politics, humans were children, brash, impulsive, and naive. Yet here they were, attempting to prevent a war between civilizations that had been spacefaring when humans were still figuring out agriculture. The Vexari Confederation and the Krell Empire had been locked in a Cold War for centuries, but recent border skirmishes had escalated tensions to the breaking point. The Galactic Council, desperate to prevent an all-out conflict that could destabilize the entire sector, had reluctantly accepted Earth's offer to mediate. "They're accelerating their war preparations, even as we speak," Science Officer Takumi said, sliding a data tablet across the tactical display. "Long-range scans show fleet movements on both sides. Whatever we're planning to do, we'd better do it quickly." Ilara studied the tablet, frowning at the projection models. "These formations don't make strategic sense. The Vexari are positioning their heaviest battle groups away from the most logical front lines. The Krell are doing something similar," Takumi added. "It's as if they're both anticipating attacks from completely different vectors than where their opponents' forces actually are." Ilara's frown deepened. "Pull up the reports on recent border incidents." The room's holographic display filled with data, reports of destroyed outposts, ambushed patrols, and hijacked supply ships. Each incident was attributed to either the Vexari or the Krell, each denied by the accused party, and each serving to ratchet tensions higher. "Something isn't right," Ilara murmured, circling one incident report after another. "The attack patterns, the weapons signatures, they're inconsistent." "Commander," Park interrupted, her hand pressed to her earpiece. "We're receiving a transmission from the Vexari flagship. Supreme Strategist Zelvax is requesting to speak with you directly, not the ambassador." Ilara raised an eyebrow, but nodded. "Put it through." The view screen shifted, revealing a tall, slender being with silvery skin and multifaceted eyes that gleamed like polished amethysts. Zelvax wore the ceremonial armor of a Vexari war leader, intricate patterns etched into metal that seemed to flow like liquid. "Commander Chen," the alien's voice was melodic yet cold. "I will be direct. Your presence here is superfluous. This conflict has roots deeper than your species' entire recorded history." Ilara maintained her composure. "With respect, Supreme Strategist. Fresh eyes sometimes see what familiar ones cannot." "Naivete," Zelvax dismissed. "The Krell attacked 3 of our colony worlds. They slaughtered civilians. This is not a misunderstanding to be smoothed over with diplomatic platitudes." "And yet," Ilara countered, "the Krell insist they had nothing to do with those attacks. They claim you struck first, targeting their mining operations in the Lyrican Belt." "They lie," Zelvax hissed, "as they have always lied." Before Ilara could respond, the communication system chimed again. "Commander," Park's voice was tense. "The Krell High Marshal is now also demanding to speak with you." The screen split, and the imposing figure of High Marshal Drak filled the second half. Where the Vexari was sleek and elegant, the Krell leader was a mountain of armored chitin and muscle, his 4 eyes burning like red coals in a face that seemed carved from obsidian. "Human," Drak rumbled, his translator barely softening the harsh edges of his native tongue. Do not be deceived by Vexari's silver speech. They strike from shadows, then cry victim when we defend ourselves. That is a fabrication. Zelvax snapped. Your kind has always relied on brute force when cunning fails you. Ilara watched the exchange, noting how each leader seemed genuinely convinced of the other's guilt. Either one side was executing an elaborate deception, or, High Marshal, Supreme Strategist, she interrupted, would you be willing to share your sensor data from the incidents in question? Perhaps an impartial analysis could shed light on the truth. Both alien leaders hesitated. Our intelligence methods are classified, Zelvax said finally. As are ours, Drak agreed, perhaps the first time the two had concurred on anything in decades. Then we remain at an impasse, Ilara concluded. But consider this. What if both of you are right about being wronged, yet wrong about who is responsible? The suggestion hung in the void between them. Neither leader dismissed it outright. The diplomatic summit proceeds as planned, Ilara pressed. In the meantime, my science team will investigate these incidents independently. As newcomers to this region, we have no established allegiances or biases. After a tense silence, both leaders reluctantly agreed before terminating their communications. Ilara turned to her crew. They're hiding something, but I don't think it's what we assumed. Takumi, I want a full analysis of every reported attack. Park, dig through communications logs. Look for patterns, anomalies, anything unusual. Reeves, plot us a course that will take us past the sites of the three most recent incidents. You think they're both telling the truth? Takumi asked, already compiling data. That neither of them is responsible for the attacks. I think, Ilara said carefully, that someone wants these two powers to go to war. And they've been very, very careful to make sure it happens. As the horizon moved deeper into the neutral zone, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. If her suspicions were correct, then whoever was engineering this conflict wouldn't appreciate humanity's interference. 3 days later, Ilara stood in the ship's analysis lab, surrounded by holographic reconstructions of destroyed outposts and ambushed vessels. The diplomatic summit was set to begin in less than 48 hours, but she was convinced the truth lay hidden in these fragments of data. There, Takumi pointed to an energy signature recorded milliseconds before a Vexari outpost was obliterated. That's not Krell weapons technology. The radiation profile is all wrong. And here, Ilara highlighted a calm burst from a Krell patrol ship before it was destroyed. The attacking vessels identified themselves as Vexari, but the encryption protocols are inconsistent with authenticated Vexari military communications. Park burst into the lab, her face flushed with excitement. Commander, we've intercepted something. A transmission on a frequency neither the Vexari nor the Krell monitor. It was heavily encrypted, but we managed to isolate a fragment. She activated her tablet, and a distorted voice filled the room. Phase 2 complete. Both targets responding as predicted. Evacuation of assets from projected war zone at 70%. Profit margins exceeding initial estimates. The recording ended, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Someone's manipulating both sides, Reeves whispered. Creating a war for profit. But who? Park asked. And why don't the Vexari or Krell see it? Ilara's mind raced. Because they're looking for what they expect to see. Their millennia of hostility creates the perfect blind spot. They're so convinced of each other's guilt that they never consider a third party. We need to take this to the summit, Takumi urged. Ilara shook her head. Not yet. This isn't enough to convince them. They'll dismiss it as human naivety or worse, suspect us of trying to manipulate them for our own ends. She straightened, decision made. We need irrefutable proof. And I think I know how to get it. She turned to her team, determination hardening her features. We're going hunting. The revelation. The horizon drifted silently through the asteroid field on the edge of the Proxima neutral zone. its engines powered down to minimal output, its sensor profile reduced to that of space debris. On the bridge, Commander Ilara Chen and her crew waited in tense silence. "Any sign of pursuit?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper despite the fact that sound couldn't travel through the vacuum surrounding them. Lieutenant Reeves checked his instruments. "Negative. The Vexari patrol lost us when we ducked behind the gas giant's moon. They've resumed their standard route." Ilara nodded. After their abrupt departure from the diplomatic preparations, both the Vexari and Krell had demanded explanations. She had provided none, knowing that revealing their suspicions prematurely would only lead to denials and increased hostility. "Approaching target coordinates," Reeves announced. "Based on the pattern analysis, if there is a third party operating in this sector, this is where they'd stage from." Science Officer Takumi looked up from his console. "Commander, I'm detecting unusual energy fluctuations approximately 20,000 kilometers ahead. It's subtle, masking technology far more advanced than anything the Vexari or Krell possess. Can we get visual confirmation?" Ilara asked. "Switching to advanced spectrum imaging," Takumi replied, manipulating his controls. The main view screen shifted, colors inverting and then refracting into impossible hues as the ship's sensors pushed beyond the conventional visible spectrum. Slowly, a shape materialized against the backdrop of space, a massive structure, angular and predatory, its surface rippling with distortion fields that bent light around it. "That's not a natural formation," Communications Officer Park breathed. "No," Ilara agreed grimly. "It's a forward operating base, and it doesn't match any known Vexari or Krell design parameters." Takumi's console beeped insistently. "Commander, I'm picking up weapons signatures, identical to those we found at the attack sites. And there's more. Manufacturing facilities, shipyards, energy signatures consistent with a small fleet." "Someone's been busy," Reeves muttered. Ilara's mind raced. "Park, can you intercept any of their communications?" The communications officer focused intently on her task, fingers flying over her console. "They're using a quantum-encrypted frequency. But yes, I think I can isolate some of it. Audio only." A voice, cold and calculating, filled the bridge. "Final stage preparations complete. The Vexari fleet has taken the bait and will move to engage what they believe is a Krell invasion force in the Denov sector. The Krell have likewise been manipulated into position. When their fleets commit, our strike teams will eliminate both command structures. In the ensuing chaos, our asset acquisition teams will move in to claim the abandoned colonies and resource centers. Estimated completion: 72 hours. A different voice responded. "The Shadowers are pleased, Operations Director. This war will be most profitable. And with both the Vexari and Krell devastated, no one will remain to challenge our expansion into this sector." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "The Shadowers," Park whispered. "I've heard rumors. A syndicate that profits from conflict, manipulating less developed worlds into war, then swooping in to claim the spoils." "But the Vexari and Krell aren't less developed," Reeves objected. "They're two of the most advanced civilizations in this quadrant. Advanced technologically," Ilara corrected, "but predictable psychologically. Their historical enmity made them easy to manipulate." She turned to Park. "How long until the fleets engage?" "Based on their timetable, less than 24 hours. Ilara's expression hardened. "Then we have less than that to prevent a war and expose the real enemy." She turned to her crew. "Takumi, I need detailed scans of that base. Every vulnerability, every access point. Park, compile all the communications we intercepted, plus the analysis of the weapons signatures. Reeves, plot us a course back to the summit location, maximum speed." "The summit's probably disbanded by now," Park pointed out. "After we left. Then we'll need to get creative," Ilara replied. "We need both the Vexari and Krell leaders in one place to show them what we found." 6 hours later, the horizon burned through space, pushing its engines beyond recommended limits. Behind them, 3 shadower vessels pursued, sleek, predatory ships that had detached from the hidden base once they realized they'd been discovered. "They're gaining," Reeves reported tensely. "Their drive technology exceeds ours by at least a generation. Reroute auxiliary power to the shields," Ilara ordered, "and open a channel, broadcast on all frequencies used by both the Vexari and the Krell." Park complied, her expression tense. "Channel open, broadcasting." Ilara took a deep breath. "This is Commander Ilara Chen of the Earth vessel Horizon. We have uncovered evidence of a conspiracy against both the Vexari Confederation and the Krell Empire. An organization known as the Shadowers has engineered false flag attacks to provoke war between your civilizations. We are being pursued by Shadower vessels and request immediate assistance. Transmitting evidence now." Park began streaming the compiled data, intercepted communications, sensor readings, analysis of the weapons signatures, and detailed scans of the hidden base. "No response," she reported after several tense moments. "They think it's a trick," Takumi said grimly. The violent impact rocked the ship as the first Shadower vessel came within weapons range. "Shields at 60%. Reeves called out. "Evasive maneuvers," Ilara ordered, gripping her chair as the ship lurched. "Continue broadcasting. Add our current coordinates and the approach vector of the attacking ships." Another hit. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. "Shields at 30%. We can't take much more of this." Ilara's mind raced. Why wouldn't the Vexari or Krell respond? Then it hit her. The evidence alone wasn't enough. They needed to understand why they'd been so easily deceived, why humans could see what they couldn't. "Hark, new message," she commanded. "Supreme Strategist Zelvax, High Marshal Drak, we understand why the Shadowers chose you as targets. It's not because of your resources or your strategic positions. It's because of your history. They knew your past conflicts would blind you to their manipulation. They counted on your mutual suspicion. But we, humanity, have no such history with either of you. We could see what you could not precisely because we are newcomers. Our outsider perspective revealed the truth that your ancient enmity obscured." The ship shuddered under another barrage. "Shields failing," Reeves shouted. "Prepare emergency protocols," Ilara began, but Park interrupted. "Commander, multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel, Vexari signatures, and Krell." The view screen shifted to show a breathtaking sight, massive battleships of both civilizations materializing in perfect formation, their weapons systems already targeting the pursuing Shadower vessels. "They came," Takumi whispered in disbelief. "Both of them." The Shadower ships broke off their attack immediately, attempting to scatter, but they were caught in a devastating crossfire. Within moments, all 3 were disabled, drifting helplessly in space. The communication system chimed, and the split-screen image of Zelvax and Drak appeared once more. "Commander Chen," Zelvax's voice carried a new note of respect. "It seems we owe you an apology and our gratitude. The evidence you provided is compelling," Drak grumbled. "Our analysis teams confirm your findings. These Shadowers have much to answer for." "We have deployed our fleets to the coordinates of their base," Zelvax added. "For the first time in centuries, Vexari and Krell ships fight alongside one another rather than against each other." Ilara allowed herself a small smile. "I'm glad we could help prevent an unnecessary war." "More than that," Drak said gravely. "Your species saw what we could not. Perhaps there is wisdom in fresh perspectives after all." "The diplomatic summit will reconvene," Zelvax declared, "but with a new agenda. Alliance against these Shadowers, and perhaps a place for humanity at the table." As the Horizon limped toward the massive Allied fleet, Ilara looked at her crew, tired, stressed, but triumphant. Humanity had proven its worth not through military might or advanced technology, but through something far more powerful, the ability to see past ancient prejudices and recognize manipulation for what it was. "You know," Reeves said quietly, "I think we just changed the course of galactic politics." Ilara nodded. "Not bad for the newcomers." In the vastness of space, as the combined might of two ancient enemies converged on the Shadowers' hidden base, a new chapter in interstellar relations was beginning, one where humanity's unique perspective would prove to be its greatest strength. The war was indeed a lie, and only humanity had seen the truth.